Need a presenter? Your Event Audio has you covered. Closed-circuit audio equipment with turnkey operation at your trade show booth, live event, or private event. YourEventAudio.com is the place to go. DJ services, MC talent, and a whole lot more. Check out YourEventAudio.com today.
Welcome to the middle of March. It's the 15th. It's St. Patty's Day weekend. And I have a light green on. I don't know what Kim is over there wearing. A lot of black. Maybe it's a shade of green that I'm not familiar with. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt.
I think you're colorblind.
Is that it? Okay, we'll go with that. Here on the Exhibitor Now podcast, Mike Morrison, National Sales Director, WS Display, and co-host of the show. My good friend Kim Gichler, the Chief Content Strategist for the Exhibitor Group, as well as the Associate Publisher of Exhibitor Magazine, joins me now. And boy, a lot of stuff going on right now, but it's mid-March. We're all overcoming that 1 hour bump forward, or at least I'm trying to. My body keeps
rough.
Crazy.
It is rough. I'm not going to lie. I'm having some issues.
I'm sure, and all our listeners and viewers are having those same issues, but you know what? Get over it. We're moving forward. We have a lengthier day of sunshine, and I, as a golfer, will take advantage of that whenever I can. Let's get to bullet points because we got a few of them today that are very important. The top conversation in many places, both in our industry as well as outside of it, is the new Labor Department's interpretation of the independent contractor versus the W-2 employee. The rule, by the way, took effect on March 8th, 7 days ago, a week ago, actually, last Friday. And there's 3 long pages of legalese. And if I looked at it for about 10 seconds, kind of like I did in high school, and went, bunk this, I'm not going to read all that. And let's face it, nobody took time to read it. But here's the summary, 4 points. I'll jump right to it. The law states that the independent contractor status is evidenced if the worker has 1, substantial investment in the business other than personal services. 2, purports to be in business for himself or herself. 3, receives compensation by project rather than time. That's important. And then 4, has control over the time and the place of accomplishing that independent contractor work. You and I talked a little off mic, Kim, on this one. Why don't you give me your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it goes, from my perspective, you go back to how you set up that contract in the first place. So if you are, I always did project-based because that's how it works. But you need to be very careful. And I've never been one in my management style, never one to say you have to be here at a certain time in the seat to do things done. It's mine. Like if you get it done, you get it done. It doesn't matter to me. So I'm probably not the best person to really ask about this, to be pro or con, but I will say this, how you set it up, set expectations, and then no one's upset about anything. But I will say you can't, the thing about, I need you to be at a meeting tomorrow. I think we talked about this. You need to be here. And the person can say, like, I can't, I'm going to come in at 9 or 10. I think you could request it, or you put it in those SOWs ahead of time, or the work MSA that says there might be some occasions where you might have to be or required to be at a certain meeting on a certain date or whatever, and you just sign it. You put it in the contract. I don't know if that works or not with what they're saying, the red, the between the lines kind of there, but that would be my kind of way to get to try to work with it in the system a little bit. But that's it, it's tough. We're kind of in a new age. Everyone's working from home. Everyone has their own way of doing things. But, communication is key. And I find it hard to believe that a lot of employers wouldn't automatically be willing to work with their contractor. My 2 cents.
Exactly. I agree. That is a very valid point. As you and I were talking off mic, I think it'd be real interesting to do a poll on this and see in social media how people respond on it. I have a feeling it'll be 50-50, but kind of like our world right now.
Well, event marketers consultants are very opinionated. So I'm sure we'll have a good sampling of what they think about this whole thing.
I say they are. I'm one too. So
I know. Well, we are in our own way.
So let's go to point 2.
Yep.
Speaking of another situation of law, we'll stay on that subject for a second. Coming up next week is our March edition from the Exhibitor Group of the Association and Advocacy Focused podcast. Tommy Goodwin and myself will do that. And we'll talk about a lot of things advocacy. And one of those big statements coming out of DC right now is the fight against conference scammers. TUI, We all hate them, right? As professionals in the events and meetings industry, we know how crucial it is to safeguard our conferences and expos from fraudulent activities. With the new trade regulation rule on impersonating a government business or a regular business, the Federal Trade Commission rather, can file federal court cases against scammers who impersonate businesses to return the money back to the people they've scammed. It's way past time to at least get this measure out there. Thoughts?
I mean, Mike, I think we talked about this. Haven't we been talking about this for 5 or 6 years now?
Years.
It's ridiculous. I mean, for this to still be going on is kind of how our industry moves so slow to get things done. But I will say good, yay. Because I've been able to, I call up some mutual friends, associations, whatever, and I let them know, hey, look, I've been approached, room blocks, the whole thing, or, and I let them know what's going on, and I tell them I forward it on who's been sent to me so they can actually get ahead of it if they can. The other challenge is that now we're getting on the hit. I spend 4 or 5, I don't know. I get 4 or 5. I get 5 or 6 or 7 emails a day selling lists.
Right.
And let's add that on to the whole menu of that whole thing, because then you're involving my time, you're getting IT involved, you're getting the marketing side involved, you're getting everyone else involved, and we're wasting time trying to stop these from coming in, and they keep coming in. So I think, yes, this is great what they're doing. Bravo, hooray. They need to start making it more expansive on some other things that are wasting our time and taking up our money as well.
I don't think lists are going to make it on that.
No, they won't. But it's a nice thought, isn't it?
I agree. It's my time as well. I get more of those than I do hotel scammers. Hotel scammers are bilking people out of thousands of dollars on false reservations.
And that one is surprising. It's still happening. I mean, it really is. So,
sad.
They're always going to find a different way and a different angle to try to get something for free, and then we'll figure it all out down the road. So good for them. I hope it works. I'm cautiously optimistic.
I agree. It's expect the worst and hope for the best. All the other analogies we can throw out there, but we'll see how it works. Red alert, by the way, our final bullet point on coverings, the big tile and stone show that comes to the Georgia World Congress Center next month. I found out this morning through an end user who was trying to call me up for a solution, which I did help them with. But at the show, there will be no hanging signs for exhibitors. They're not allowed in the booths at all. You can build up to a 20-foot tall inside structure inside of your booth. If you're an island or bigger, you can't be an inline. But if you want to put a hanging sign on that, you can build up within your booth and advertise that way, but you can't hang anything from the ceiling. This, Kim, has become somewhat of an alarming trend. There was the argument earlier this year, end of last year, with Freeman and general contractors regarding engineering stamps on ad hoc connected items in the ceiling. So now it's going to hanging signs as well, which has been a tradition in the trade show industry for decades. It's how we identify booths where people in the aisle can see, okay, there's where HP is, as we said off mic a minute ago, or some other location for other customers and businesses. Now it's seemingly being shunned, and people are going to have to come up with solutions. One is the structure I mentioned, another's double deck. Are we pulling full circle back around to the 80s and your daddy's trade show again? And are we going to do that where we brand those? I'm seeing a lot happening, and it's centered around no hanging signs. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's probably the sign of they probably can't get the labor. There's challenges with all that. Costly to do it. I did ask you before we were on camera. I did say, is this across the board? They're not favorites. You can't buy your way into that sign or anything like that. It's just flat. You can't do it.
Correct.
With the technology today, it's called GPS, or you'll probably get more enhancements on the the apps now that you can do some push to find your booth, or do some creative ways of show management enhancing that ability. So there's always an opportunity, I'm sure, but it's kind of weird. But it's, I'm sure they have to do what they have to do, whether it's right or wrong. It's, it's just another opportunity for us to learn how to maneuver our way around it and be creative. And those that are really creative and can promote that are going to be the ones that are ahead of the game.
You're right. It was the reasoning in the show manual is logistical and time constraints.
Okay, well, there you go.
There's a show before they got to move out, and I think labor's tagging on with that, and that's becoming the fallback issue.
And I would say if I have $20,000 I can save and I can put it towards something else, I'm probably going to get my bottom line to save me $20,000. Even though that's a really cheap sign to hang, but it's I can see pros and cons for both, but if it's an even playing field where everyone has to be creative on their own, then it shouldn't be that too difficult. But
I just had a great idea. Well, this is bad. In Vegas, when you're walking down the strip and there's the guys with the cards that are trying to get you.
Stop.
What we do is we go around the flipping cards in the aisle. Come see us at booth 105.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Anyway, got to be creative. You got to be creative.
That's creative, Mike. I think you've gotten a new, just don't bring those people into the show.
You never know. They're trying down the road. Okay, we'll move on. We got a great interview for this week that we did at Exhibitor Live. Mm-hmm. Recruiters right now, recruiting services are on top of the game as far as what it takes to get the right people in the right spots for the right opportunities. And we had an opportunity to speak with some representatives from the organization known as SearchWide Global. They're out of Texas. And Kim had an opportunity, I as well, got a few questions in about some ideas on repositioning yourself for your next job. So let's talk with them. Coming up on the Exhibitor Now podcast, it comes up next after this.
Attention, trade show and event marketing professionals. Are you ready to take your face-to-face marketing expertise to the next level? Join more than 3,000 candidates currently enrolled in Exhibitor Group's Certified Trade Show Marketer Program. CTSM is corporate America's top source of the industry's best trade show and corporate event training. CTSM certified trade show marketers enjoy expanded career opportunities, greater respect and authority in their organizations, and earn higher salaries than their acronym-free peers. Learn more, earn more. Visit ctsm.com today. Welcome back to the Exhibitor Now podcast here in the Square in Nashville, Tennessee. It's Opryland Resort. It's Exhibitor Live 2024. And as we're continuing our series of discussions on topics that are very relevant to our industry, and at this time, probably one of the most important topics involves recruiting. It involves employment. All of the questions everyone has about the workforce and where to find a job, and all of these other great questions. So to take us down this journey to talk about recruitment is my good friend, Kim Gischler.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here, and I have these two amazing people next to us, joining us today, which I just kind of pulled them off after they just got done with their flash session, so we're very excited to have you. Mark Gnatovic, Executive Vice President, SearchWide Global. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And Andrea Christopherson, with Vice President of SearchWide Global.
Thank you so much.
We're excited to have you, and I want to kind of start this off by tell us a little bit about SearchWide.
Well, SearchWide has been around for over 20 years, and our firm is an executive search firm that provides certainly executive search services, but thought leadership within this industry of exhibitions, exhibit and trade shows, live events, experiential, sports, destination marketing, and the venue side of the space too as well. And we do work a lot with industry trade associations that are all attached to the evolution of live events and trade shows.
Well, thanks, Mark. It's great to have you here. And so I'm going to switch over to Andrea. Andrea, so you've been here, you just got done with a flash session, you've got a lot, you probably talked to a bunch of people here. So what are you seeing that is probably the biggest concern right now?
That's right. Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's very exciting to be here. I think one of the biggest interests that people, regardless of what organization they're with, is talent. Like talent. How do I find talent? How do I grow talent? How do I have great leadership? So one of the most important components of an organization is their intellectual property, and the biggest part of intellectual property is their people. And so the ways that they can recruit and retain talent, that's what we're hearing today.
And I'm going to ask you real quick to pull that up. So
Technical challenges.
We're just having a little technical challenges. It's no problem. She's going to clip it on. So I love talking about this because everyone is kind of in that weird, what do you find some of the challenges when looking, you're hearing it on the street? Because there are a lot of people going through career changes. Age related, or I want to do something totally different. And what are you hearing out there that their biggest concern might be?
I think one of those folks that are in that space where they have a lot to offer, they are looking for a leadership role. They're looking for a place where they feel valued. They're looking for more training and development. And so they know that they're in this time to be able to offer that, but they just don't know exactly how to get there or what to do. And so one of the first recommendations that we've been talking about is, what is your value proposition that you can bring to a new organization? How can you help solve that organization's problem? And how can you add value as a leader? What's your story? How can you be a better storyteller about yourself? So we really help coach that. That's the first part, to really break through the noise and understand how you can have good conversations with your next employer.
Yeah, when you flip that towards the organizational standpoint too as well, and the trends that are associated with finding the right talent in an atmosphere where unemployment is so low and the great talent isn't necessarily out there looking for a job. If they're happy and they're content, they're not necessarily that curious. So we have also a lot of conversations regarding engagement, workforce flexibility, and how to provide a culture within an organization that not only has that EVP that Andrea had mentioned, but also has the ability to retain good talent when you get it. And what are some of the steps to retain that talent?
Real quick, I'm sorry, I got distracted by that. We're at a live show, so this is what happens. When you talk to how do you bridge the gap? Okay, you have a person inside the company. They're an event marketer. They're mid this level. How do you prep them? What's your advice to them if they want to start growing that path? What is your recommendation for that, or how would you see that evolving?
One of the most important things is demonstrating your skill and just being a thought leader. So volunteering in an exhibitor group, Exhibitor Live, being a part of that association, that you can add value in that space as well. So I think volunteering your time, getting involved in a leadership role within the trade associations that support your industry, and being a thought leader. When you can do those things, those are tangible actions that you can then put as part of your portfolio, you can talk about, and you can create awareness about your leadership capabilities.
I was going to say, just in addition to what Andrea said, we have a lot of conversations with mid-level managers that might be leading a small team or not necessarily leading others. And to be able to advance, they're coming to us as to how do I do that? And then when Andrea mentioned that volunteer exposure within assets or industry associations or affiliations such as this, that provides that landscape to lead in a unique environment outside of the four walls of their 8 to 5 job.
What do you feel is, I have an opinion about what I think. This industry, you have a lot of very amazing people in this industry, as in the client side, event marketer side, whatever. I have found that they're not really great on their self-promotion, which you talked about. And how do you tell them? I mean, the PR, they want to enhance their brand, so they want to grow and move up, but the self-promotion just isn't there. Or they're just really too busy to self-promote because they're doing, they're on the show floor 12 million hours a day. So what is your advice for that?
Well, I think that they have to make a conscious effort at creating time. So we had a conversation about this in the leadership session yesterday, and that is, you really have to put time on your calendar to block out, because it's going to take some time to evolve that elevator pitch, that value proposition that you bring, and it's going to take crafting. So they'll need to make a conscious effort to do that. And then they need to create a personal advisory board. This is something else we talked about, where you get critical feedback from people from the various aspects, and they can give you feedback on your pitch. Is this something that's meaningful? Does it resonate? Is it relevant? And are you going to be different than others that are similar to you? So I think that practice is going to be important to creating a good, strong personal brand over and above thought leadership.
I've got one that I've been holding back because it's real talk here, okay? 24 years in this industry. I've had an industry in radio before coming into here. So I'm reaching this age of I'm not ready to let it go, but I'm also facing a challenge of, and I'm happy where I'm at, first of all, but everybody's always looking, right? And at this age, I'm looking at challenges of being, you use that D word hesitantly, but it's discriminated against. How do you coach a listener, not necessarily me, but someone who might be watching or listening to this podcast who's aging out a little bit, getting a little older, mature, who brings a significant amount of cross experience from other industries into this, and maybe they have some values to move forward and how to brag about themselves a little bit, but not sound cocky. I'm chasing this question, but
I hear exactly what you're saying, and it's a great question, and it's somewhat of a trend within workforce today, and I think that trend falls within engagement and how organizations are positioning themselves to engage, to inspire, to motivate individuals such as yourself in the generation that you live in. We talked a lot about different generations, from silent to boomers to X to millennials to the Zs. But understanding the value that you can provide and the atmosphere that you will be successful in, and surrounding yourself with leadership that's going to accept that, that's the key. And not all will accept that, unfortunately. But adapting to that change is a skill of leadership. We talked a lot about the evolution of that, being able to impact different generations at different times, knowing where your strengths are at, where your weaknesses are at.
that's smart. Go ahead.
No, I love what you just said, because I think it can also be discriminated against young, the other opposite, because they don't know, or we've all had these. You've been in a company for 15 years. You haven't been in that company for that long. You really don't know the craft. You don't know what you're doing. But that could be another one. That how do you sell the person and make them feel like you should hire me. I do know what I'm talking about. What is your comment on that?
Yeah, tenure on your resume is important. When somebody is at an organization for a year or two and done, 3 years and done, 1 year and done, we kind of phrase that as you're there for a cup of coffee. You're faced with a challenge and you move on. But tenure is important, because on the flip side, where people might look at tenure of 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, they might view that as one problem, one voice, one set of input, and not necessarily a diverse offering. So it's a funny web to weave that, and it all depends where you're at within your career, but that 5-year tenure is a sweet spot. As a young professional, build it, be accustomed to some of the challenges that you're faced with, overcome those challenges, and then evaluate your career as you want to move on for more responsibility.
And I think also when you have an experience where you don't have that longevity, but there's a story, there's some reason why you took that opportunity to make a change, add value, and then perhaps something happened with the organization. That needs to be part of the story that you're telling, not just something that's left off your resume even. It needs to be something that's captured So that way, if you have an opportunity to network, you have an opportunity to showcase your skills, that story is already part of not only what's on paper for you, but also what's on LinkedIn, how you're telling your story to others. So that way it's not ambiguous. So if you do have a situation where you've got some movement, explain that, and that will help you.
Okay. Ooh. Arnold Horshack here from Welcome Back, Cotter.
Now you're dating.
Now I'm dating myself. Shot myself in the foot there. A legal issue with a former employer. How do you address it? How do you suggest it's addressed? Because it happens in this industry. It happens in other industries I'm sure that you're familiar with. And you get in that, in the resume side, there's always that why did you leave thing. And if you had to take legal action or you had issues, how do you deal with that?
That's a great question, and we are always asking the question about transitions within a resume, no matter where you've been at what point in your career. And we try, as Andrea had mentioned, there has to be that story around that. And usually if there's a legal issue that's associated with something, there's a non-disclosure that's attached to that. So we're sort of peeling that back with the individuals to try to understand what the circumstances were. And we always know that there's two sides to the story. So we have to be effective listeners and really engage in the conversation and understand that from a perspective, from an employee's perspective as well as an employer perspective.
I would love to know, because I know we're probably going to wrap up here soon, but I would love to know if you had each of you, if you had one piece of advice that you would love our listeners to take away from on either what you've learned here or what you've heard or who you've talked to in their journey. What would you do? What advice would you give them?
I would say and recommend that no matter where you are in your career, always continue to learn and always continue to have something that you are experiencing that's new that you can talk about that's relevant for today. So whether it's upskilling, whether it's cross-skilling, whether it's learning something completely new, have that be a part of your plan and build that into your muscle memory, because people are going to want to know that you've got that edge to you and that you're going to constantly be relevant for them too. So learning mindset is my recommendation, because that's what employers are looking for to be a game changer in today.
I would say build a network of people that you know and that you trust. This advisory committee that we talked about earlier, I think is extremely important, because you can feed off of different people and different advice throughout your career. And it's important because every day is different, challenges are different, but being able to have that is extremely important.
And I would also add on to that, listen, make sure you're upbeat.
I always say listen with your ears and with your eyes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I would also say, learn to be positive, and your network is key. And those people that you trust and you know that you are, they helped me through my transition, they advised me, they mentored me, and those are the people that will stick with you forever. So I would highly recommend that you but the attitude is all.
Attitude is everything. Everything. Thank you for saying that. The other piece that I would recommend is for everybody to address the question, what's your why? What's your why? What's your purpose, and what's your value proposition? And get that to where you're so comfortable talking about it that it builds confidence in whomever you're speaking with. That's the other advice I would give.
Well, I think we're good. I think we
have had some great conversations here, and we're going to take a quick break and come back and wrap this up right after this.
Are you searching for trade show and event products and services? Find It on Exhibitor Exchange is your complete buyer's guide to trade show exhibiting and events, featuring the trade show industry's top exhibit and display providers.
Find It on Exhibitor Exchange is the industry's best shopping and commerce resource for buyers and sellers of exhibit and event products and services. Reaching 20,000 exhibit and event buyers in every print issue of Exhibitor magazine and 140,000 exhibit and event buyers online each year. Search the listings or list your company today. Learn more at exhibitoronline.com/findit.
Well, and we're back, and I can't thank SearchWide Global enough for coming in and chatting with us. I think the big takeaway is really understand how to sell yourself and your brand yourself, and no problem in hiring some amazing people to help you out with your language, with how you present yourself on LinkedIn, on social media, and in your resume writing or anything. Unfortunately, LinkedIn is not unfortunately, but the day we live in now, LinkedIn is the key thing right now. And if you present yourself in a certain fashion out there, the resume is second. So I think having this great company and companies like them across the board supporting that and helping you and to find your way and your path is invaluable.
It's funny you said that about LinkedIn. As far as sharpening your resume, you need to do that. But I found this out at the end of last week. I'm a U.S. veteran. And what I found out was I get LinkedIn Premium for free being a veteran. All I have to do is show my
Oh, good to know. I did not know
all
that.
you veterans out there who have served, go to LinkedIn. If you don't want to pay the hundreds of dollars it costs to go premium, and for 1 year, just 1 year only, you get free LinkedIn Premium. And that way, the people that come and they look at your profile, you actually get to see not LinkedIn member, or premium member, but who it actually is that's trolling you on your social media. So there you go.
First of all, thank you for your service. My son is just recently a veteran now too, so I will let him know that. So that is wonderful news. Good information, Mike.
Try to throw them out there for you. You toss them up, I'll knock them out of the park. Here we go. The House this week passed a TikTok ban. Oh my goodness. The Senate that may pose a problem there because there's a lot of differentiating opinions about that in the Senate. The president says, though, if it reaches his desk, he will sign it. So, Kim, the question is, how am I going to get through my morning without being able to see TikTok videos?
I don't know. I mean, that's a whole nother question. But I will say this, I don't know enough about this to go here or there, but I will say that there are a lot of people that I know that are influencers. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate around this one and if it even comes through. I guess stay tuned. How about that?
We'll see.
But I think it's interesting to follow and figure out the thoughts behind it. And we're getting a lot of good information for future podcasts here. So this is another interesting topic.
Absolutely. We'll wrap up with this one that you and I both know very closely and dearly, or undearly as it were. Uber and Lyft. Their prices are going through the roof. They're lifting, actually. There's a little wordplay there from Mike. The fares are potentially doubling as of late, especially during peak hours. So Uber is showing a 20% rise, though, on airport pickup. So it's an interesting anomaly of events, but plan accordingly, right?
Plan accordingly. And hey, it's a newsflash. There's called taxi services out there that might be more efficient and inexpensive. So, or fiscally responsible, shall we say. So I think we just have to, put your ego aside. Taxi cab isn't that bad. And it's sometimes faster, especially in Vegas.
That's true. Vegas is a different anomaly, though. I'm 45 minutes from the airport. And if I ask my wife to carry me to the airport, I get that look like I've got 8 heads. She's like, "You better find yourself another girlfriend to get to the airport."
Here's an interesting little thing. You can, there are car services all over the place, and sometimes you can get a really good deal. So there might be someone that's in between I know Uber and Lyft are a big thing, but there are other friends that can do things. So get a college student to take you if you're that worried about it. There's always an option, right?
There's your travel tip from Kim.
Options.
Keep your options open from the Exhibitor Now podcast.
And remember,
the Exhibitor Now podcast. Give us 30 minutes, and we'll give you everything you need to know now.